I'm Insa. I've been a graffiti painter for a long time. Get to paint walls and create artwork around the world. Live the life of expressing myself through paint. Yeah, I've been painting graffiti like ever since I can remember. Like many people, I got the book Subway Art, blew my mind, and have just been making a mess since. I prefer to keep my anonymity, but for numerous reasons. Initially, I come from an illegal world where you paint graffiti. That's where it started, but it's nothing to do with that now. It's more to do with art and fame and celebrity. It's like I'm quite anti-celebrity and, like I say, people being famous for doing nothing. I have no interest in being famous. If I can remove myself and people get the artwork is, I feel, needs to speak to more people, and it doesn't need to come from my narrative. That's why I'm quite reluctant on interviews. And the same, there doesn't need to be more kind of white men talking. Like, it's time for us to be a bit more quiet. I feel very lucky and privileged that I get to paint and do these things, and I feel like the work could be more accessible to more people if it's less dictated from my perspective. So to remove myself allows the work to exist for itself, and I'd much rather people look at the work than look at me. So the more I can step out of interviews, the better. Yeah, Insa, there's no big clever story. It was just a tag that I made up when I was a kid at about age 11. There's been numerous breaks in my artistic career where I've thought, I'll change it. I've kind of changed my identity as in what I paint, but I've always kept it under the same moniker. I enjoy that kind of, alter ego or kind of separate personification that isn't necessarily me. Oysters all day, every day. Oysters are the secret to happiness and long life. Get gout or die trying. Painting in New Brighton has been great because I'm genuinely pleased when you get to be, even though I'm in here for 5 days, I feel like you can step into a community and you can this is why street painting is one of the best things, because you can perch up on a corner and be there for a week and you really get to get a feel for a place. And it's a real community here. I can understand why Dan and the guys want to inject some love here, because we've had 10 years of austerity and a shit Tory government that are just neglecting the working class. Luckily Dan and these guys have the money to try and put into a place, and it shouldn't be them doing it, but it's great that they are. Any community will thrive with more investment, more money, more time, more help with the kids. You can see the kids are hanging around, they've got nothing to do, but there's a wall being painted so they can get involved painting the wall. This is basic social understanding. It's basic. If you give kids youth centres, if you give kids things to do, there's not going to be as many of the problems people moan about. So now I feel very, very inspired by my week here. The term street art is much more a kind of public friendly word. I personally don't like the term street art. I either a graffiti artist or an artist. I don't think it's defined by the street, but it's a label that people like to put on. I started the shoe company because there was quite a big jump from painting graffiti to having a shoe company. So I started out doing, traditional graffiti letters, illegal, bombing, and then got into pieces, and then I made a real deliberate shift out of it when I started painting the heels. Like my logo or the design you see is actually a high heel. Like these days, I'm not so conceptual about it. Back then, I kind of got very conceptual about what it was I was doing, what this kind of graffiti fetish was, this kind of ownership of space. I used the heel as a kind of real symbol of kind of product fetishism or consumer fetishism. So, because the heel is such a commodity that, lusted after from all perspectives. At the time, obviously, it got really popular. I had Nike asking me to do some trainers, and I was just in one of the moments where it's I've been painting heels on the street for a while. If I'm going to release a pair of shoes, it's going to be a pair of heels, not a pair of trainers. As in, I would rather have my own heel company selling heels than Nike selling a shoe, although maybe I regret that now. But so it was also a learning process. To set up a company, go to factories out in Italy, get the leather, get everything. It's just a real, if I'm going to be talking about product, I want to make my own product. I want to go through the whole process. And now looking back, I realise I do that many times. I like to work out something, do the whole process. And then once I've figured it out, once we had a successful heel company, once they had sold out, I didn't really need to do it again. I didn't want to. Maybe I should have handed the business to somebody else to manage, but I didn't. I'd had my experience. graffiti. I don't know. Yeah, I've been arrested. What I find mad is that this is one of the things where I like the fact that I've got a bit of age and a bit of, time I can reflect back on. But like society's opinion has changed so much that the one thing that put me in prison is also now paying me X amount and taking me around the world is bought and sold on clothing or products. And, I never changed. I'm still the same dickhead that got arrested. It's just the world kind of caught up, and it's a very nice perspective to ride it through and get to see how the world's attitude has changed. I'm going to go music, and it's going to be Prince. Prince is I would say he's one of my biggest inspirations from being a kid. I've always loved his, and hasn't the world gone shit since he's died? I blame that for everything. If I had been any way involved in some of his genius, if I could have interpreted that in a music video or painting, then he would be the artist I'd work with. Part of this graffiti fetish thing is I like the fact that kind of colour, it can be put in so many different settings. So I've painted like dugout canoes in Africa, I've painted penthouses in Hong Kong, millionaire mansion in Shanghai, the back alleys of Colombia, Bogota, and it feels at home in all them places. I'm definitely most proud of the piece in Brazil. I did this huge satellite piece, and if you haven't seen it, I recommend you Google that video, because that was a moment where I really was pushing. I wanted to do something that hadn't been seen before, or what's next. And I have a whole gang of ideas in that genre, but at the same time, when you're talking on a scale, shooting from space and painting the biggest painting that existed on the planet at the time, it's I keep coming back to hard work. It's hard work, but the joy of that kind of hard work is the payoff. If I'm not painting for 24 hours solid in the Brazilian heat, then what would I be doing? Generally, it's all positive. What I find is the more you travel, you realise that art is a positive thing for everybody. I've been painting a mud hut in Africa. You get a very similar response to painting some shutters in Shoreditch. Do you know what I mean? People are generally, their day is brightened, their life is enriched by seeing the process of something being made. People assume that it's like this magical thing, where it's not. It's like hard work. Someone goes and paints the wall and fills it with some life. People vibe off it and like it. I would say pretty much everywhere I've gone, it's well received. It's positive. It's a global thing. Art is, and I guess the thing with street art is it's for everybody. It's not so. There's no exclusivity to it. It's on your street, so you enjoy it. Being invited to Rockpoint is great. But I get the impression from all the conversations I've had with Dan and Jake and these guys, there's a genuine love of a place that they're from, and it's trying to regenerate it for the people that live here. Gentrification is a difficult one, because most of the time it's trying to put up the house prices to move the people out. Artists are responsible for gentrification as much as the bankers. Whereas I get a real sense of Rockpoint Leisure are committed to making their hometown as great, and art is a great tool for that. All I've been aware of this week is I want the people that live here to be proud and own the work. Everyone here is going to live with it. I'm not going to live with it, so I want them to like it more than I like it. Fingers crossed they do. People get caught up in this myth of what art is or creativity, and everyone's asking, what is it? It's like, if it gives you some light in a dreary day, that's plenty. I could over conceptualize to, an art professor about what all the lines mean on the wall. I could also say to anyone, well, if you like it, if it's pretty and it makes you happy, then that's plenty. It's weird. The older I get, the less conceptual I get, because you realise there's just an innate joy that people get from colour.